So we're talking about comedy today and the principles of comedy and Carrie just talked about the importance of being human and not trying to be funny, and that's kind of what we're addressing right now. So go ahead, Carrie. And and the concept of mischief, like in other words, Don Richardson. Okay. And for those of you who, by the way, I don't know if you guys, I think you guys all have the book. There are some people I need to get the book, but there's a chapter about can I play comedy in there, so you should probably reread it if you have questions. But the principle is that the actor always needs to be in a state of mischief. And what does that mean if you're also giving yourself over to the role? Carrie?
Okay, so basically Don would say you have to surrender your brain to the character or the character is brainless. And he was pretty much right about that. Get off the stage, give it all to the. But in the 5% that you do keep, because you want to remember you're in a play and this really isn't really happening, otherwise, they take you off to the asylum. In that way, it's an unconscious thing. That's what rehearsal's for. And I think that the mischief in the back of your mind should be unconscious as possible, because it knows how to do it. But your brain really should be the character really should be in a drama. I don't know how any other way to put it other than the 5% or so that you keep will do it for you.
It's the mischief side really is more when you're preparing, not when you're necessarily executing. Would that be fair to say?
Yes, yeah, exactly. Even when you're executing, your sense of comedy will be there. But
you gotta just trust it's there without making sure that the mischief is there.
Yeah, that's why you rehearse, to make sure you're right about that. The mischief is putting in the rehearsal, and then that way your body and your brain, which is part of your body, by the way, will just come up with it if you've trained it properly and you use the methods you talked about. We're just letting it be like an athlete.
That's right, right. Hey, Anthony, welcome, man. We're doing a different class today. I don't know if you knew, but we're doing a lecture and talk group chat like this about comedy. So we all decided that you would be teaching for 20 minutes. So go for it. Action.
Wait, that I will be teaching for 20 minutes?
Yeah. We're all waiting what you have to say.
No, I'm just teasing you. No, but I'm just teasing you. So even to this day, you will hear Carrie sometimes, I do it as well. Even people who have been acting for 50 years make this mistake of slipping into trying to be funny. So you have to really restrain yourself from trying to be funny. And when you're
that exactly is my latest scene. I'm being humble here. I've been acting since I was 16 years old, so that's like when the Barney the dinosaur was around. But my very last scene with the Sunshine Boys, I was back in there, so it can happen.
So we're talking about, again, keeping it honest and real is number one. The very first thing that you do when you have a farce or a comedy is not make it funny. So number one is you get the material and you go through all the same steps that we went through as a drama. You don't even know it's funny. So you just kind of read it without acting as we've been doing in class. And then after you kind of read it through for a little while, then you can start breaking it down. Sort of what we've talked about, the journey of the character. This scene is about blah, blah, blah. You do all your substitution and book and emotion. So you do all of that stuff first. And then you can, maybe 50%, whatever, you can read your lines with your partner, acting partner, your partner at home, and get a vibe of reading it through. Sometimes you may find yourself periodically going, if you're by yourself, not with another actor, practicing it, you may find yourself giving yourself over to 100% for a second. That's okay, just don't do it too often. I would recommend you probably don't do it with the other actor, because then I'm sort of planting these seeds, and I don't necessarily want this to be in the scene. I'm just kind of trying stuff out. So if I try stuff out, I'm going to try stuff out by myself. But I also don't want to do it very often, because you want to keep the scene fresh. So after you do that for a little while, what's a little while? I mean, I would say a little while would be, I know the scene so well, and I know the lines so well that you can pretty much randomly go anywhere in the scene or the script, randomly say a cue, and I can immediately finish the line. So it's pretty much almost ready to do. This is before I've even done any jokes. Now, what I can do while I'm reading it through like this, I can start doing the scene, and this happens, I'm sure you guys experience it, where you get tickled. You're reading it through and something tickles you. It just happens. It's not planned, it just does. So those moments are the gold. Okay, so the biggest mistake I have made, maybe one of the biggest mistakes, is trying to make something funny by putting a fun joke in it. That's death. Okay, because I thought, hey, this would be funny if. Now I can do that if it comes out of the moment. So you've got to make sure that you're in the scene, something tickles you while in a sense playing it as a drama. Something tickles you and you let that be your gold. And that's the beat that you're going to push, frame, figure out where your pause and punchline is. That's how you find those little beats and those punchlines. But you never want to do them by sort of putting them in. So after you kind of play the thing as a drama, little moments are going to tickle you. And when you find those little moments, you want to mark those in your script. And how do you mark them? Just maybe write in your margin, okay, this is a funny beat, or put a star there if there's a funny moment here, and maybe even make a note. I think it's important too to have separate documents. So you have one document that's clean without marks, and then have another document that you write on, so that you can use that clean document to run lines or to just kind of have a fresh, clean slate with all the scribble there. In the script, I have a doc on the computer, is I'm actually typing out those things, like anything that comes into my head. Like, this would be funny if, this isn't a comment that I'm doing, but that would be an example. Anything that pops into your head that might be important, funny wise. I mean, on that topic, this is not a comedic skill. This is an acting skill. Those things that I'm talking about that you would write down, oh, this would be funny because it tickles me here, this would be funny here. I suggest, and this is what I've been doing and I recommend it, is when you have your scene and you're reading it through and you're at that place beyond the journey of the character, beyond the point of the scene, beyond the basic joke, which we're going to talk about in a minute, beyond all of that, once you're there, that's when you're going to want to start making those notes about not just jokes, but things like, this reminds me of this, or this person is like this person in my life. So I have my screenplay in front of me. Yes, I'll have the lines over there, but that's not something I'm writing on. I'm making notes, substitution notes, things like this, what this means. By the way, on that topic, giving everything meaning, again, is going to be before you make anything funny. Everything. You're always asking these questions, why and what? Why am I saying this? What's going on here? What does this mean? What does this mean to me? Who is this person? What you don't say is how. How should I play it? That's bad. So after you find those little mini beats that are tickling you, coming back to the sort of just comedic stuff, you mark those in your script. So now I know my lines really well, and I've maybe, to tap into Mary, your question about how many jokes on a page. I mean, Don used to say that there can be too many jokes. So I think that for me, what I will do is, at this point, I'm not editing the jokes out yet. I'm just putting them in. I'm not putting them in. They're happening. I'm letting them tickle me, and I'm making notes. And that may mean that I could have literally 2 or 3 jokes in one line. I mean, look at The Simpsons. They do that all the time. Look at The Office. They do that all the time. They can make one line stretch out 5 minutes just with pauses and punchlines of just looks. When I'm doing the scene and there are certain parts of the scene that are really funny, Don used to talk about how you don't want to have another joke near it, basically, because it'll take away from the power of the big joke. So there are many times that I will remove jokes. How many on a page? That's hard for me to tell you, Mary. I don't know how many. I can just tell you that I don't want to have too many. You know, remember this. This is what he used to say too, is that the audience gets tired of laughing. So if you feel like you're making too many jokes, that they're laughing all over the place too much, that's not good. You got to give them some time to recover. I mean, this is why when you watch a sitcom, sometimes they even have a tender moment. They have a moment where it's, you know, we talk about everything being human, so they'll take a beat there and it's no joke. So I mark them. I may end up having on the page, I may have 15 jokes. Because as I read it through, I thought, this tickled me, this tickled me, this tickled me. And then I'm going to just start going through it again. And I'm going to start thinking, all right, what would happen if this is a joke here, and what would happen if I pushed the envelope a little bit here and tried this? Is that fine? Would that work? Yeah, I think it might work. So I start just sort of fleshing it out and thinking about different options of how to deliver, and I'm specifically using these words, how to deliver that line or that moment that came out of the read through that was funny. Now, what do I mean by pushing the envelope? What that means is this is when you're starting to think about punchlines and pauses, setting up jokes. How do we set up and pay off a joke? This is so important. I know I'm not going to have you guys do it, but I do think it's important to recognize, because this has been happening lately, is that people have been bringing in farces and comedies before they're ready. And, I think it was like, Cheers or Friends or one of those shows, they're rehearsing all week for a 21-minute show. I mean, Carrie, you did sitcoms, right?
Oh yeah, I did a lot of them.
You did a lot of them. So what were some of them? Didn't you do Murphy Brown?
I did Murphy Brown twice.
Can you talk a little bit about your experience, how they would specifically plant a beat? Did they ever do that with you guys? Like to put a pause here and pick up the glass? Because Don used to talk about that all the time, and many of the shows that he directed were sitcoms.
Yeah, that is. I mean, you're lucky if you have, if you have a successful sitcom, you probably have a director who understands these very things about pauses and. Yeah, so what happens is that it's basically shot like with 3 cameras, so it's basically kind of shot like a movie. So, and you do it in sections, just scenes, just like you would a movie. And there's usually a live audience there for the night that you rehearse it like 4 days, and the 5th day you rehearse and then shoot it on Friday
So what
night.
about,
usually.
I guess what I'm talking about is a specific joke. Let's say there's a
Right.
joke that's really funny beat. Did you guys do that? Because sometimes they don't. I'm just wondering if you did that.
No, actually, I was fortunate enough to the directors I worked with in Murphy Brown were really cool, and the audition. This is classic, and I think that every student can know this. I came there for the audition, and I didn't get it, but the guy who played the dentist on Bob Newhart's show, he became a TV director. I'm trying to remember his name. Anyway, he said to me, "You're too talented. This isn't your part, but you're too talented. We have to read you something else." And he gave me a script, another part, exactly what you're talking about. Give me 10 minutes to come back and do it. They hired me for that one. But when we got on the set to do the scene, we found it wasn't funny. And I keep trying to, in my mind, every day I go to rehearsal, I got to find a basic joke. I got to find a basic joke. And I thought, oh, I'm going to get fired because this is not funny. And I got there, and you know what had happened? The writers had recognized it and written a funny thing for me, from my personality.
Right.
So yes, they know what they're doing, or they're out of business.
Well, what about pauses and punchlines? Did you ever work on that on set?
Yeah.
So did they ever say, like, for example, I think Jim Burrows used to do that with Cheers and Frasier. I think Don used to even maybe talk about, he would say, like, you'd pick up a glass. I think he said this, didn't he? You would take a beat, and then you'd pick up a cup or put the cup down. All that kind of stuff sort of had to be framed and marked. Did you experience?
Yes, it is. You're absolutely right about that, because the thing is that they got a lot of tight shots. They got a lot of things happening, and if they don't, that's what the rehearsal is for, to find out where the pauses and the beats are.
Yeah. Okay.
So yeah, I mean, that's basically some of the bricks and mortars of rehearsing a sitcom is what's funny and what isn't. And it's not, take a beat here or not
But
there.
here's the thing.
The writers are there, and they're crossing stuff out. This doesn't work.
I mean, yeah, but here's the thing that's been happening in class is that people are bringing in farces, black comedies. We're going to talk about styles in a minute, Augie. Different styles of entertainment, and they're not fleshing out the jokes to the degree that they need to be fleshed out. So it's almost like there's this vibe of like, it'll work itself out. It'll just work.
Yeah, no, it won't.
Well, I have 2 things to say about that. So I do think, and you probably have experienced this too as well, some of you guys may have as well, that you're honest in a scene and you just let it rip, and you just, something is funny and it's working, and you kind of know what happened, and you just kind of let it go the next time. Another take, another take, another take. But that ability had to be learned. right?
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you there. That's very true.
So here's the thing. What I'm getting from the vibe from you guys is that they're leaving it up to you. They're not doing it so much. Maybe they don't have time. Maybe they don't have the money, so maybe it's more relying on you to do this work at home. So if it is done at home, that's when you kind of want to think about doing some of these things that we're talking about. So just on framing jokes. So when I'm in a scene and I know something is funny, I knew it blossomed on its own. It just let it happen, and it happened. So when that happens, and I know this is the joke that I'm going to do, how do I frame it? Number one, I'm going to remove all of the pauses leading up to the big punchline that's going to hit. So once I do that, I figured out, like, let's say that the joke is he went to the store and bought cookies. And let's say in this particular story, and bought cookies is my punchline. So what I'm going to think about is what Don even talked about in the book is the setup and the breaking, the derailment of the joke, the punchline. So he went to the store. In this way, this hand is going down, kind of like a railroad track. It's going down, representing this is the punchline. So I'm going to think about different options for my setup and my punchline. I'm going to try different ones out. So I might go, what are different options here? I try different punchlines out. So as I said, so that's what I do. When I have my jokes, my bigger jokes, I've tried different punchlines out. And I also try different setups. If it's, he went to the store, pause, because remember the pause is before my punchline. He went to the store, pause, and this way is going to be, and bought cookies. He went to the store, pause, and bought cookies. He went to the store, paused, and bought cookies. So I'm trying all these different punchlines out, but I may also try out different setups. So I might try, he went to the store, paused, and bought cookies, right? So I'm trying all of these different options out, and this is how framing a joke works. Hi, Mariah, it's nice to have you here. I try different punchlines out. Okay. So, Sammy, I think you have 14 cameras on, by the way.
Yes, I don't know why it's really.
Okay, that's really weird. So it's important to try different options out. And then I figure out, all right, this is the option that I like. Once I decide on the option that I like, then I work on the mechanism of the joke many, many, many times. In a perfect world, I would probably do that joke 15 times. Not fully acting it, but just like, for you, Mitch, in baseball, learning a new move, throwing the ball repeatedly so you can just do it in your sleep. That's what I do. In a perfect world, I would do that with every joke. Sometimes you don't have time. But the good thing is if you do what I'm asking you to do, your brain and your body is going to learn this. And when I was on that sitcom that I did, Malibu Dan, they didn't do this. I had to do it all on my own. They basically gave you no time to rehearse. Maybe we would run it or talk about it once, and then we would shoot. So what do? I got to make sure that I got it in my head at home, that I've tried out different options at home. So when I show up on set, I'm good. I've already done this. If you have time, but if you don't have time, because you've been learning framing jokes, timing of jokes, pauses, punchlines, when you don't have time to practice it at home and you're on set and you're just winging it, you'd be shocked how good it will be.